I open doors that no one can close. And so it's not just for your family and your personal life. That's critical. That's important for us as individuals. But also collectively for us as a church body. I've set before you an open door that no one can shut. I don't know how many of you guys know this or not, but in 1955, there was this really, really cool guy from the Netherlands. His name was Andrew. And he had this passion, this desire, this sense of calling from God to smuggle Bibles into the Soviet Union. For those who are too young to remember, the Soviet Union was a menace. How many of you remember, oh my gosh, the Soviet menace, right? The nuclear arsenal and the atheistic communist system. They controlled about half of the world. The giant iron curtain, that you couldn't go through and no one could come out. It was a horrible, horrible time period in political and military history in the world. And here's this guy, Andrew, who says, I feel called by God to smuggle Bibles through this iron curtain into this closed country where it is illegal. There is no freedom of religion. There is no freedom of press. But I feel called by God to do it at the risk of my life, at the risk of being placed in prison forever or even being put to death. I mean, that was the level of risk. And nobody was doing that. It was considered closed to the rest of the world. It was the Iron Curtain. And so the story basically is, and it's a by now somewhat famous story, among Christians and in Christianity, but he loads up basically his Volkswagen Beetle. And he puts Bibles, as many as he can stack in there, in the passenger seat, in the back seat, in the trunk, everywhere he can. And he heads for the Soviet Union. He's going through the border crossing through Poland, which was, of course, part of the Soviet Union at that time. And there at the border crossing are the guards with their machine guns and their uniforms and the whole deal, checking everybody's papers and documents and the whole routine. And the cars are in front of them, and they're, looking underneath and lifting up the hood and spending an hour on each car, like meticulous, pulling people aside, detaining them, the whole deal. And he's like sweating bullets, And he's thinking, for sure, man, they're going to shoot me down on this, right on spot. And they get the car before him, and then it's his turn to go, and he's like terrified because these Bibles are out open everywhere. But he can't. It's gotten to the point where he simply can no longer deny or resist this incredible, insatiable spiritual urge from God in his heart that he's got to do this. And so he pulls up to the border crossing, and he prays what is now a famous prayer. And the prayer he prays is, God, he says, may the God who causes the blind eyes to see, may he cause seeing eyes to be blind. Right? Don't let him see my Bibles, Jesus. Help me, Jesus, And so that would be the modern hip-hop version. Help me, Jesus. Don't let him see my Bibles, And so that was basically it. And so he pulls up, right? But the miracle is that when he comes, they look at his car, they look in the windows, they inspect, they pull the whole thing, and they just kind of wave him right on by. Welcome to the Soviet Union. Right? Pretty cool, pretty incredible. For the next 30, 40 years, this guy smuggles over 1 million Bibles into the Soviet Union. He goes into all these supposedly closed places. It develops a large international ministry over 40 years with a great reputation. And the focus has always been to go where, no man has gone before. Seek out new civilizations. No, I'm sorry. That's my problem. I obviously am a bit of a nerd. I like Star Trek. But so he goes behind like the bamboo curtain, China, communist China, the Muslim veil today, places where they put Christians to death, where you can't have Bibles. And, millions and millions. To this day, they attribute, in a certain level at least, the fall of communism to the influence of Christianity and the spiritual influence of those people who were hungry and thirsty, but under this communist, atheistic rule that rose up by reading the Bible, connecting with God, and realizing God has more for us. And here's the thing that I think is totally cool, and told this big story just to say this. The name of that ministry, which some of you may already know, the name of that ministry, it's called Open Doors. Open Doors with Brother Andrew. Because you know what? When God opens a door, nobody can close it. Right? I don't care if they run half the world. They got the most powerful military in the world. They got a whole nuclear arsenal. They got iron curtains, bamboo curtains, Muslim. It doesn't matter. When God opens a door, nobody can close it in your life, in my life, and in the life of those who want to follow Jesus Christ. And so that's really what I want you guys to be able to get this weekend. And my question, I guess, for you is, listen, what are the open doors that God wants you to walk through? What are the open doors that God has for your life, and how do you get through them? Well, there's three kind of things that I want to talk to you about. Not rocket science. They're little fill-ins on your outline. Probably not going to hear anything like that's going to really, blow your mind. I never thought of that before. I never heard those points before. So I'm telling you in advance. But what I'm sharing with you this weekend is perhaps some of the most powerful spiritual information that you can ever get. And if you will truly grasp it, if you will truly internalize it, and if even more importantly, you will act upon it, I believe you will not only find those open doors for your life, but you will walk through them and you will see the awesome work of God doing things that you thought were impossible, opening things that you thought were closed, making things happen that you didn't think could possibly ever happen for your life, for your children, for your marriage, your family, your business, your future, your life with Christ. I believe God wants us to learn how to walk through those open doors. I've said before you, he says, an open door, and no one can shut. He didn't say, I'm sticking a closed door in front of you. Okay? A lot of people talk about, well, God closes doors. Yeah, he does close doors, but you know what? He clearly says to this church, I have set before you an open door that no one can close.